I just was relaxing right into that. Hello,
Well, welcome to Talking with Wizards on Friday the 13th. A
I know.
great day for goddesses and witches, bad day for the Knights Templar.
Well, you might want to explain that so that people would wonder.
That's where Friday the 13th comes from, when the Spanish Inquisition and the kings and the Pope decided to find the Knights Templar guilty of witchcraft and arrested them all, and 99% of them were all burnt at the stake. That's why it's unlucky for some.
So if you were a witch in the past life and you're having a really tough day in memory, that might be why, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of that, just real quick, it just brought a flash to the Boss Castle Witch Museum, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and if ever you get to England, to sunny Cornwall, it is one of the things you've got to see, because it's not a quaint little museum. It is real. Everything you see in there is real. Some of it has very dark energy, and that they have some of the Inquisitors' tools there, and the Witchfinder General, who was a guy named Matthew Hopkins, like spikes that you put into somebody's arm, and if it doesn't bleed, they're a witch and they're burnt or drowned, and it's a retractable blade, because the Witchfinders were paid a bounty for every witch they could catch.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. It's a very horrible, but I think it's important to understand the history of what really was taking place back in those days.
Yeah, and it's the epitome of what we call the fairy accord, which we work with within the initiations. But that destructive part of the masculine that is terrified of the feminine having any power at all, and they'll do anything they can to take that power away. So here we are, and I think it's our third or fourth one.
I think that's our third one. Last time we tapped on the amazing conversation of crop circles, which was so cool, one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, we were going to tap onto that again, but for some reason I had in my head we were going to talk about Bigfoot and Sasquatch, because
another great topic. I can go down that path all day long too. So yeah,
especially since Kelly's in the Pacific Northwest, which is Bigfoot and Sasquatch stamping grounds or stomping grounds, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, when you're walking in the woods and you're not quite sure, and you have a great story, I'm sure you're going to share it with us.
Yeah, I do. It's not just there. So I mean, I've experienced. When I was a kid, I experienced what I call werewolves in the forest several times. I experienced them when I was a kid in Wales. My father bought a farm called Finnan Dewi, and it's a water porthole, and it's where St David, Finnan Dewi means the well of St David, is where he baptized the first Christians. But I was down at the well one time, and I thought of my brother, and there was what at that age I called a wolf man, because I'm a lot older than most of the people watching. I remember the long chainy werewolf, the wolf man, and that's what it looked like. And I run for my life. And then I experienced it again at a place in Oxfordshire when we went to another sacred spring that bubbled out the ground. And there was this like wolfman ape there. And my friend I said, did you see that? And he was already running away. So he saw it as well. And then when I lived in the Pacific Northwest, I lived in the wilderness out on Willapa Bay. And there were some strange tree formations, and like big pine trees snapped about 5 foot off the ground, as wide as this, and just snapped in half. My mother had passed, and I'd made a bowl of her ashes to work on my shamanic path. And I went down to the wood, and I was led to a certain part of the woods this stage that I don't normally go. And I was blowing the mugwort and blowing it over myself, and the smell was a bit weird. And I thought, is that the mugwort? Then I saw the trees just dropping like that in front of me. I thought, oh, the lumberjacks are driving a truck through here. But there was no truck. And then my dog ran off barking towards it. And then Odin just said to me in my ear, he went, hi. And I stepped back in the hollow of a tree with my mugwort blowing. And I thought, what was that? And then the noise stopped. My dog was gone. So I thought, oh my God, it must have been a bear, and a bear's taken my dog. I went back to the lodge I was staying in, and I had to try and get my gun to go and look for the dog. But the dog was back there covered in cuts and yelping, but these weren't being attacked. She'd gone through branches and brambles just to get back to the house. And actually, she wouldn't leave the house for a week. She was terrified of going into the woods. So I posted this on Facebook because I'm not far off the 101 that runs right up the Pacific coast.
Right.
And I had 3 different answers, all private messages. Nobody wanted to be. One was from a hunter and 2 were for policemen. They all said that I had been challenged by a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
So then I thought, okay, what's this about? And I found my friend Bill, who's apparently really into Bigfoot, and he came to stay with me, and he couldn't believe all the Sasquatch signs in the forest there. And then we were there, and it was howling wind, and we heard this crazy sound. And then we saw something big and dark going down the bottom, and he was trying to get his phone out. And I said, it fell, and I said, we're just not meant to do it, Bill. And then we went right out on the peninsula, and it was like we could have been in Neolithic times, and the woods were above, and we're standing there, the wind's howling, and we're looking at the trees, and we heard this really weird, eerie call calling to us. So I had lots of experiences with them. Has anybody watching had any experiences?
Well, and thank you. Right now we have a few of our regular folks that are showing up. So thanks, Nina and Ian. Nice to see you. And Drema's back in with us as well. You know, it's interesting. I think that it's kind of like the stories are long, right? You can find all kinds of conversations and forums that you can go on for Sasquatch. Here in the Pacific Northwest, as you mentioned, the ley lines are extraordinarily powerful. And I believe that there's portals all over. Mount Adams is one of them up here near Trout Lake on the Washington side, which is very infamous for having Sasquatch sightings and things like that. It's kind of like, you know, like when you're a hunter, you're tracking. There's certain signs like you speak of, the trees and things like that for tracking. And it's a really popular thing to do. I mean, I'm kind of thinking to myself, you guys, I remember when this happened and you shared it with me. And I'm like, if I don't think I'd be out there trying to capture a picture, I'd be like, time for me to go. Bye-bye.
Well, it was interesting. I was sent a link to, and I don't know where the link is now. I've got a new computer in it, but it was to a story from 1927 in that part of where a load of hunters had been attacked by 3 of these Sasquatches, and they were going to go and hunt them and try, and they'd wrecked their camp. They hadn't hurt anyone. They just wrecked the camp, and the men had run for their lives. And a local hunting party was going to go out and track the Sasquatches, and the local South Nemea Indians just thought it was funny, and they said, the Sasquatches don't live in this world. You can't hunt them. That's why you never find their bodies. And if you look at all the totem poles from the Pacific Northwest, at the very bottom of every totem pole is the guardian Sasquatch. Now, I believe these beings are guardians that guard the portals between the worlds. And in Norse tradition, they talk it as the hound, the great hound, Garm, who is the hound that guards the gateway. Now, is that hound a man? Is that hound a beast? We don't know, but that's 2 completely different cultures that have this same dog man guarding the portals.
There was a student of yours a while back, a friend of mine who lives in this area as well. And I believe I recall a story of hers where she was walking and she turned a corner. She might have even been driving, and she swears she saw a wolf-like creature standing on like the corner, you know, and it was late. So, sometimes I think we see these things, and of course our rational mind is like, nah, you know, you're just a little loopy in the head today, Kelly. Well, people would tell me that on a good day, you know, you're just a little loopy again today, Kelly. But it's, you know, I think you have to really trust.
So I think it's that same thing like in Glastonbury where ley lines overlap. Those ley lines, when they cross, cause an interference pattern in the frequency lines, and beings from other dimension become visible. And then when you move out of it, they're gone. You know, and that doesn't matter whether it's the realm of the light elves, the dark elves, the dead, the giants. I believe there's guardians that mark each one to stop the unworthy passing through, and vice versa. It's a 2-way portal to stop one going through and the other going through.
I completely agree. And I think when you have the, really, I consider it a gift when you see one of these, because then, I mean, it's extraordinary. Yeah, so just a couple of comments in the chat is Nicole, who lives here in the Pacific Northwest as well. She speaks exactly to Mount Adams and Trout Lake. They're being supernatural areas, absolutely. And Teresa mentions that they are indeed portal guardians.
Yeah, and they come up in every culture. It's just, you know, people are trying to hunt them, trying to find them, last time I was in America, there was a story of a woman who was seduced by one. A Sasquatch was her husband. You know, is that any different between the women who come to Glastonbury, falling in love with the fairy king, and going on the tour to pass between the realms? It's the same. It's a mystical being that dwells between many realms. So
Yeah, undoubtedly.
You know,
Undoubtedly.
on Glastonbury tour, I have seen strange beings there as well from different dimensions. And I believe it's how we see it as well. I was actually on the tour once with my friend Tim and a guy called Steve, who's also he's a very gifted medium, but he's also a shaman as well. And we were walking on the tour and we saw some beings. Somebody saw one of them, Steve saw alien beings. I think Tim saw cat beings and I saw shadows. And we're all looking at the same thing, but we've all got different filters of how we see things. So maybe only, you know, some people can see them, some people can't.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing, is that there really shouldn't ever be in our journeys this comparison to how other people see, sense, feel, and hear, because we all have our own way of interpreting the timelines, the dimensional beings, and the energies. I'm going to share this, and I don't know if excuse the image, it's kind of a funny image, but it is a little bit about America's Missing Ape. But if you scroll down, this talks about 1924, Jeremy. And this speaks to like what you see on the totem poles a lot, this type of figure here. But yeah, I think it's pretty interesting, and it goes way, way, way back through the timeline.
There you go. Meets the invaders.
Yeah. Yep, there's history. There's no doubt about it. Would you put this in correlation with like the Loch Ness Monster as well?
Is the Loch Ness Monster an otherworldly being? Well, that would make sense if because they've never found beings. So could the Loch Ness Monster be a being from the Jotun realms, the giant realms? You know, there's lots of those. People have no problem seeing ghosts. People have no problem seeing angels or fairies. Why don't these other beings come through? And is that Loch Ness Monster a sea troll? We don't know.
Well, the depths of the ocean go much farther than we really can, even to this day, really comprehend, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's portholes in the ocean as well.
Oh, undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. Yeah. Different dimensional beings. Which, you know, could be, the segue into the crop circles. What dimensional beings are the ones that are creating that? And I'm going to go ahead and share, because crop circle season officially has begun in the UK based on what happened here in April. And I'll go ahead and share this. And we had shared our last conversation that we're going to be following this season through and through. So this was the first one. There's not a lot of detail about it, but as best as you can see when you read more or look into it in terms of the photography, there are the woven basket aspects of it, which we've talked about before.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I actually said to Kelly, and she's, look, they're there. And it's actually the thing that authenticates it for me, that the grass is woven to a certain way, it becomes the basket in the middle.
Yeah.
You can't do that with a plank.
No, you can't. And it's definitely, you can see, and I'll try to blow this up a little bit, and I'll share the link down below, but you can kind of see that here. And you can't sit there and finely weave these things together physically and be out of that space before. I mean, it just would take an extraordinarily huge human effort to.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this, Kels, that we were talking about these crop circles this year. I actually think not just us who are open and woke beings, but mankind, or there's a word called grelligs that we're called by other beings in other dimensions. I actually think the human or grellig consciousness has taken a step backwards. All the things that are coming on. So will the crop circles not be as evolved this year? We've gone backwards. Rather than the fractals getting more and more intelligent because we're learning, I think we've taken evolutionary a step backwards in the last year.
Oh, that'll be interesting to watch. I don't know. I am so far on the other side of that. I'm hoping.
You're hoping we've evolved.
I'm just hoping. I mean, to use the term hopium, which is used out there in a lot of other contexts. I don't know. I lean into how we all see, and we all see, sense, and feel differently. Dream time to me has been extraordinarily active. I've told you that as of late. And I think that there will be some really interesting patterns shown to us this year that show evolution, but maybe not in an evolutionary state, that when we're stuck in the current landscape of the world and all the trajectories that are being thrown upon us. But yeah, I'm excited for what the crop circles have to show us this year.
So Amanda's put a message up there. Jeremy, did you ever visit the pub at Honey Street? They had a room dedicated to crop circles. No, I haven't, but I'd love to know, where is Honey Street? Hopefully she'll answer me.
Yeah. There's actually, in our deep dive yesterday, they're going to be launching a documentary on crop circles in October of this year.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
And that'll be interesting. It comes from, because I've actually studied, it's not studied, I've followed crop circles for a few years. And whenever you get the scientists there, anything I say as a shaman is hogwash to them. Even though they can't explain anything, any devices. Okay, cool. I'm going to pop out there, I think, Amanda, this summer and have a look. Devizes is a town that's just the other side of Avebury, and it's really where most of the crop circles appear. We do have some in Glastonbury, you do get some near Stonehenge, but in the Avebury Valley is where most of them happen. And there's a place called Silbury Hill that is an amazing place because it's linked with that extraterrestrial energy, which is Kelly's more drawn to than me. And it's an earth pyramid that's been there for thousands of years, so there must be a reason why they put that there.
Is that the one that I hoofed up really quickly? Was that Silbury Hill?
That's Silbury Hill.
Yeah, that was a big magnet for me to get on top of that. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's where all the UFO spotters spend all night sitting at the top of it looking at the UFOs.
Yeah, pretty amazing area. It goes to show you so much of the history there that your world, being the UK, has that we don't have here. Although we've talked about this before, there are crop circles that pop up here in the United States, but nothing like what you received there. Just reading a comment here I'll post it. Do you see that one?
Yeah, from Nina.
Yeah, from Nina. Perhaps some of us go backwards being attached to lower energy streams and some of us move forward. I think that is fair to say, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think the rhetoric on the world stage is so much about keeping us in that fear stage, which will pull us back, versus being able to hopefully learn and understand whatever it is for us inside and how to progress forward.
Yeah, I'm going to explain the Grelig thing to people because it makes sense. So my friends bought a wood down in Cornwall, which is hi Angel, he's in the Sacred Valley of Peru. Bless you, brother.
Beautiful.
Yeah, my friend brought it's a wood in St Ives, Cornwall. It's lovely. And I went in the wood and I was exploring. There's some Neolithic standing stones with Triskelions carved on it. And there's a tree that's got a hare carved into it. And there's a stump that's been carved into a chair. And he said, oh, yeah, I'm going to get rid of these. I'm going to get a JCB in and then dig them all out. I said, brother, you can't dig these out. These are Neolithic. They're supposed to be here. And I asked if I could stay in the wood, and I stayed in the wood by those stones. And I had my fire, and my partner Judy fell asleep, and I was banging my drum. And a being appeared from the stones. And it was an elven being that was perfectly formed, about 3 foot tall. And we were just talking, and she said, oh, you're a Grelig. I said, what's a Grelig? She said, well, it's like a Jotun. All of us in the other realms see you in Midgard as Jotuns. You're giants. And just like giants, you do things that you don't mean to do. But the Grelig has a certain problem. It never learns. It just does what it does. So you'll destroy, and you have destroyed your world several times before, and you'll do it again. But you can't help it. You're just Greligs. And she was very forgiving of us. And I just thought, wow, is that what mankind is? I mean, there's a very small percentage of us that are consciously awake. 99.9% don't sort of even see in the same world as us.
Well, and what she speaks of, right? You see historically where they've seen mass extinctions of populations, and again and again and again. Now, whether that's based on the world shaking her tail, the mother doing whatever she needs to do, the universe doing whatever it needs to do, or the arrogance of mankind. But I think we are our own worst enemy in that regard. Yeah,
and as you see Angel's comment about the dragon guardians of the lakes where he is in the Sacred Valley of Peru at the moment. That's lovely to hear, brother. Send us some of that
beautiful.
energy. It's, you know, and all of us who've worked in what we call the muggle world before we found our spiritual path, we lived in that world. We were oblivious to the damage we did. We didn't understand. It was about money, didn't see, you know, and those of us who are now awakened, and I was the same when I used to work in the casino business, and one of my friends went mad and he'd found God. And I thought, what a lunatic, what a loser. You know, and now I'm on the other side of that, where they call me Dumbledore and think, or Harry Potter, and they think I've gone mad, or Gandalf. You know, they mock you because they don't understand, and I don't think they're supposed to understand. We have to go for a certain bit, and we have to waken up, and then we can start seeing.
Well, we all have our role to play in whatever the perfection of this moment for each of us, whatever that is. And I think the biggest thing is where we come from that point of judging others because we don't understand.
Yeah, and then there was also, I mean, I remember I walked a French woman on one of my walks around Glastonbury, and she was saying, I don't believe anybody can see these things if I can't see them. I said, don't you? She said, no. I said, do you believe people are colorblind? We said, of course. I said, so you believe people can see less, but you don't believe people can see more? I said, think about that.
Yeah.
You know, because that's all it is. People who are colorblind don't tune into the correct frequency of our dimension. People who can see normal can. Then there's the people who are gifted can tune into the other frequencies as well.
Right.
Some people embrace that, and some people are terrified of it.
Well, and I think what happens, and I was having this conversation with a friend yesterday, is like sometimes when we see, in whatever context that is, sometimes the interpretations of that can be really difficult to convey to those that even have a, you know, that putting the fractals together and then putting it into language can be extraordinarily difficult in whatever context. And so for me, as I evolve, it's like there's so much that comes through. How do you share that when it seems so far beyond comprehension in the world within which we really live? And so it can be, and so then people can shut it off because they feel like, who's going to think I think they're going to think I'm crazy, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's a fear. Ian's just said, why don't the nature spirits protect our forests from being destroyed? Now, is that forest, are you talking about their forest in their dimension or our forest in our dimension?
Right.
So there's 9 worlds, and we live in Middle Earth, just like Lord of the Rings. There's Vanaheim. Vanaheim is a green world. They're the forest spirits. But those forest spirits don't live in our dimension. They exist, that forest exists in their world. In their world, they treat it right. In our world, we destroy it. And that's where the Sasquatch, the guardian between those worlds. Because those other dimensions aren't a million light years away. They're just the turning of a radio knob, a frequency. And those who are lucky enough to walk a shamanic path, walk through that forest, tuned in between the 2 worlds. So not only are they in our forest, but they're walking through the forest of the spirits, where everything is in harmony. But they have their energies as well. They have their faults as well. The fertility gods, or the green elementals, they are fertility gods, and that is their weakness. They want to have fun, they want to play, and they're easily distracted. And those of us who are fascinated by that become easily distracted by that world, or enchanted the world is.
Well, I remember the one story, and perhaps you'll allude to it, but you know, we're all in these various timelines. And sometimes when we make a decision in this time, like to hang a picture on the wall, it's going to disrupt a timeline that is running parallel or side by side, and can then subsequently create havoc. Unbeknownst to us, we wonder why things are odd. It could be just because we hang the picture on the wall somewhere that's going to, you know, really shift the trajectory of another dimensional line. We don't know that. But there are stories to be true to that.
You know, so I've had an experience of that. You know, so a woman came to see me, or it was actually her son came to see me, and he said, do you do house clearances? That's not taking the furniture away, that's actually clearing the energy in a house. Right. And I've done a few in my time, and I said, I'll come and look at your house, but I won't promise you anything. I will look at the energy. And I went to the house, and I trusted my spirit and my runes around the house. I didn't really think anything untoward at all. And I said, what happens? And she said, at 6 o'clock for about the last 3 months, as soon as I come in the front room, a man appears. At the beginning, he started just shouting at me, And then if I stayed longer, actually things would be thrown at me. Now I don't even go in the front room anymore. And I said, how long have you lived here? And she said, 30 years. And I said, have you moved any furniture or anything like that? And she said, no, it's exactly the same as it was. And then her son said, yeah, Mum, but I brought you that carriage clock on the mantelpiece. And I said, okay, we'll just move that to the other end of the mantelpiece.
No.
And I'll come back in a week. And I did. And she hadn't seen the man at all. But by putting that clock on the mantelpiece, she had tuned into his timeline from a couple of 100 years ago, where he'd come and sit at 6 o'clock in his room, and all of a sudden there's a woman from the future sitting there. He's shouting at a being from the future. They're not ghosts, they're just their realities have intertwined.
Right.
You know, and when I pass beings on the tour, on the labyrinth, which people have walked for 10,000 years, they're beings from other times, and they're seeing me as a being from another time, and we're just passing.
Exactly. I completely agree. You know, and I think it's always interesting too to understand the history of the land even your house is built on, or what you're considering buying on, is to really understand, because those energies are anchored in those spaces so often. Not to say that they can't be cleared, it all depends on the scenario, but some of them are just fully anchored where they're at.
Yeah, and then was I've got another story about that. So it was interesting. My mother she used to do tea leaves, she used to do the Ouija board, she used to do tarot cards, all of those things. But she was a normal woman who ran a pub as well. And one night I came back and she was doing the Ouija board. And I was only about 19 at the time. I thought, oh, what a load of rubbish. It's all rubbish, that. And she said, no, it's not. We're talking. I said, yeah, who are you talking to then? And she said, oh, we're talking to Kate Wilson. And as she said that, the hairs on the back of my neck went up. And I turned around, and just for a second, I had a glimpse of a red-headed girl standing on the stairs. And she said the pub was going to burn down, but she didn't. She said, and it was in 5. We didn't know 5 weeks, 5 days, 5 years. I'm like, oh. And after that, I used to go to bed, and I'd wake up in the night, and as I opened my eyes, this red-headed girl was standing at the end of the bed looking at me. And 5 years later, my parents went away to Spain on holiday, and I was working in the casino, and I got home about 5 in the morning. And I was in my bed, and I thought, God, the heating's off. I'm so hot. And I went down to go in the bar to get myself a pint of lager out the draft taps, which I did, which I wasn't supposed to do. But I touched the handle, and it was hot. I thought, wow. And as I did it, there was a backdraft that blew me back. The windows of the pub blew out. The whole pub was ablaze. I went round the back and saved my father's dogs that were in the cellar. And I sat there, and my sister arrived, who lived down the road. She went, oh, my God, that's 5 years. And I said, yeah, it was. I said, she was trying to kill me. And it wasn't until I moved to Glastonbury where this spirit appeared again. And now she is my spirit from Vanaheim. She's like a wife of mine in the fairy realm. And she was protecting me.
Yeah.
And we checked up on my father's pub, and it has burned down. That pub had burned down 4 times in history. And we looked at the history. Now, originally, it was a blacksmith. And the blacksmith there had really mistreated his young wife. And then eventually they found her body down the well when he died. So was that her getting retribution? Something happened in there? We don't know. But the land holds all these stories.
It does. Absolutely. The land does. Ian has a question here. Is there a Norse deity he can call upon to protect the local woodlands?
So that would be, so I was Ingi Frey, Freya's brother, that he is the deity of the woods. Or if it's Celtic, it would be Gwynat Nib, or the Green Man, whoever he is to you. There's very different ones. There's one called Ulla as well, which is very good because he's a bowman and working with the trees. It's whatever makes sense to you. There's nature spirits wherever you go in the world. And on your path, you'll find 3 things that you honor: the land, your gods, and your ancestors. And you'll find the deity that's right somewhere within. So it may be a local deity. Here, I live in Weston-super-Mare, away from Glastonbury, about 20 miles away. And the woods near me, there's actually a cairn built there. A cairn is a pile of stones. And these stones are brought from the beach, which is a long way down, and it's still there to this day. And the fishermen, if they wanted a good catch, would go up to the spirit of the woods. And there's an old poem written there. And I've lived there a long time, and I was there with my grandson. And this poem, it says, pick wicker, send me a fish for my dinner, pick wicker. And pick wicker is the ancient Celtic name of the deity of that wood. So when I go to the woods there, that's the name the land has for the spirit of the woods. And I always leave an offering for pickwicker.
Yeah.
You know, so, and it will come to you. It will be one of those things, and it will be the one that makes sense to you.
You know, and I just want to mention that just because we're on that subject, you talk about making offerings as we enter spaces, the natural wood or whatever it may be, and honoring the ancestors, the land, etc. And I'm always, and this is something you taught, whether I hold tobacco or crystals or anything of that nature in my pocket to give an offering when I enter a sacred space. And if I don't have anything with me, then I can offer my spit. As ladylike as that doesn't appear, it is just an offering of...
It's a part of you. You're leaving your DNA in the forest.
Yeah, absolutely. So something to consider for sure.
And then people say, what's a sacrifice? Your service is a sacrifice as well. So if the local woods, think of the name. Where does the name of the local woods come from? Why is it called that? And if you want to honor them, walk through the woods in service, picking up any trash that others have left as you become a land guardian of that place. It takes service, it takes time, it takes dedication. And then the forest will recognize that, and you'll get a relationship with that forest.
Exactly. Go ahead.
Amanda's saying they got a picture, and both her and her partner saw the woman in the picture rocking in a rocking chair. You know, that's something.
Oh, and then they ended up with a leak.
Yeah.
See, yeah, absolutely.
You know, the picture got ruined. And that may be an energy of a flood or a fire being put out that goes with that picture. You know, we don't know. Objects hold stories as well.
Oh, they do. And what I was going to mention too, Nicole, you're absolutely right, especially when working with the Nornians. And I know you sent a note about that. I'm compiling all my notes for you for that. But the Nornians, I mean, they help untangle the knots of our lives. And so working with our hair in that regard and offering our hair to the weavers of fate, the past, the present, the future, the cosmic threads, I call them, is a beautiful way to honor all things, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's a nice little segue, Kels, into our archetype class.
Yes.
Because we did our first archetype class last year. And because somebody asked me after the initiation class, when I say there's 9 archetypes that we have to work with, somebody said, can you do a class on the archetypes? And I thought, well, I've never done that before, so we'll do it. So I did my research and the stories I picked to tell. But the very first class, that was run by the Norns. The Norns came in, and we were working with. So anyone who doesn't know who the Norns are, they're like the Fates from Greek. One is called Erd, one is called Verdandi, one is called Skull. One is, was, and becoming, past, present, and future. So each of these archetypes, we can't pick a rune for each one, we cast it, then we'll go on a journey to the 3 caves, and your relationship with that archetype from the past will be expressed in the rune that has come in the direction, and each for one of them, and there'll be a riddle that you have to solve. But the most important one is how you're going to interact with that archetype in the future. We can't change the past. We even can't change the present.
Yeah.
But the one in the future is how you change and what the norms want you to do to interact with that being.
Yeah, and when we first started the first session, it really morphed into something Jeremy and I were not expecting, and that was working really closely with the Norns. The Norns came through in various ways, and it was really, really powerful. So if anybody's interested in doing a deep dive into really peeling back the layers of our own skin, really, to find out who we are, we began the first Monday in June. I think it's June 6th. It's 9 weeks, 9 sessions, a couple of dates shifts in there, but it's really was magical. It was really, really profound for all of us because we didn't really know what we were exploring. You can find the information on our website under our classes and events tab, and you'll find all the details there. But it was really magical.
Yeah, and it was interesting for me to give over the energy of the class. I normally work with Odin, but to give it over totally to the Nornians and sit back and just be the guardian that holds space for them. And Kelly works more than the Norns than I do. I'm a masculine energy, but I'm what you call, I just sit there, hold the fire, and I let them do their work.
And I think the Norns come to us in various dimensional ways. For me, they come through a very cosmic plane, a very high energetic plane. Not to say that it's any different. It's just a way in which we interpret their messages. So very powerful.
It was interesting. We've been talking about this, and you can use spit or hair. And I've just had a message come up on the Pulse X Telegram. You can always use spit. A quite interesting sort of connection.
Oh,
I'll
interesting.
have to read that thread and see what they're talking about.
Yeah, that would be curious. I'd love to see what you discover. Just as a side note, just to acknowledge Pulse Chain, the Pulse group, it's part of our deep dive into the blockchain world, cryptocurrencies. So
yeah, it's about freedom. That's what all crypto is about, is being free.
Yeah, absolutely.
Free from the constraints. And any of us who is woke, who wants to step out of the old paradigm anyway, we can no longer step. Once you've woken up, you can't go back. The only way you can go back is through the aid of a bottle or drugs, because you see a different way now. You heal, you feel with a different frequency, so you can never go backwards. Somebody told me that it appears as though I'm becoming an activist. And it's like, it's not that I'm becoming an activist, it's just that I seek truth. Yeah. I seek truth. And if my stepping out of line is what's going to provide me the truth, then I guess I sense in a way, maybe it is activism, but it's not about pointing the finger and saying anybody's wrong. It's just, I want to understand what my truth is and what is my truth in this world. And part of that is diving into all subjects. Yeah. And your truth is your truth. And nobody else can take that away with you. They want to say it's not, but it's yours. Yeah. And you have the right, the sovereignty to hold it. Yeah, absolutely. So should we get the runes out and see if anyone has any questions? Yeah, and two, just since we were just talking about classes, we're doing a deeper dive into Runic study too. That's beginning at the end of this month, and that's also under the classes and events. But that's an opportunity for any of Jeremy's Runic students over the years, and there are hundreds of you out there, if they want to just dive into a deeper way to hone your skills in a setting that's supportive. So that's something else that we've launched also. Yeah, normally what I do when I teach people the runes, the only option is then to take the shamanic path. But there's a lot of people saying, I really like to do a catch up on the runes. I really like to understand deeper. So in this class, we will be having people who have just learned and been reading the runes 2 years, all coming in. We'll be giving examples. We'll also watch a couple of videos of other very famous rune readers doing their runes. And we'll discuss what you like, what you don't like, and whether you incorporate that in yours. And we'll all do this together, and it's as a group. Some people will get to read, some people will get to ask questions. There may be 5 people in the group, there may be 20, I don't know. Right, exactly. And Nicole, to answer your question, let me just look real quick because it's not coming up in my mind. The advanced runic study begins Sunday the 29th, and it's 6 sessions over 8 weeks, so twice per month, and it begins at 11 a.m. So it's 11 a.m. Pacific time. So it's under classes and events on the website. So, okay, Jeremy, I'm going to put you on focus here so you can bring in the runes. Okay, cool. So everyone listening, close your eyes and listen to the sound of my voice. The dreamer has already sent numbers already. She's super keen. Okay, so close your eyes and imagine the doorway opening between us. Mana, mana, mana. Me, ma, mu, mo, me. Mana, mana, mana. Am, im, om, em. Mana, mana, mana. Okay. So I've got the first one there. Dreamer, open message 7, 9, and 21. So you have Suwello, 45 degrees placing toward the future, but you do have Thoraz reverse pointing into you, and you have Perthro in the cauldron position. So it's going to be good, but be aware of people attacking you, draining you, or your own anxiety, or something to do with your immune system. Thoraz reverse can be anything that drains you. It can be others or yourself, but you have to go to the well of your wisdom, to the cauldron. You have the ability, you have the knowledge. This is your test. So Wello's there, so it's all going to be good. You just have to start believing in your own abilities to heal your problems. All right, bless you, sister. All right. Ian is next here with his question. Okay, I'll just put this back out, girls. Yep.
He'll be learning to start learning the runes soon. Any advice? So open for numbers 2, 5, and 9.
I'll be learning the runes 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, 9. This is interesting. You have Eo at 45 degrees, so don't lose your focus. You have Tirwas upside down, and you have Isa. It's a good path for you, but you're your own worst enemy. You're like putting yourself down. Can I do this? Can I learn it? At the point when you think you've hit an ice wall and you can't go any further, that's when you're still and the shamanic energy comes in and you start understanding. So at your worst part of learning the runes, it is when you get it. And it's not going to be easy for you. You are going to struggle. But if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth doing. So this is a quest. Learning the runes is going to be hard, and it should be hard. All right, bless you, brother.
Yeah. Nicole, we have your question here, but if you could share 3 numbers for us, please, that would be great. Yeah, I think now I started learning the runes. We've been working together now for around 8 years, and I'm constantly learning how to read them differently based on just energetics that come in the moment. So I'm looking forward to the class. Okay, here's Nicole's question. Her daughter is having a hard time at bedtime and would like to find out why. Her numbers are 4, 8, and 9.
So the first one is Eo, folding towards the past. There's something from the past. There's Awaz in the middle, upside down. This is something to do with a partnership that's broken or a partner from the past, but you also have Dagaz in limbo. So it's going to be okay. This is just a period in her life, like a cocoon she's going through. She's metamorphosing to the next stage. Dagaz is there. It's like Sawelo. It's all going to be good. But you're going to have to be there with her to help her through this. Give her something to focus on before she goes to bed, like a little ritual to do to help rest her, so she focuses and doesn't allow this energy in. But it's all going to be good, Nicole. Dagaz is there. Okay.
Sending her lots of love. Okay, so next question is from Lulu, and says her sister is very ill and she'd like to know what she needs to know or how she could help.
Okay. Are the numbers?
5, 11, and 6.
You have Awaz blocked to the past. You have Fayu laying down towards the past. You have Isa up the right way. There isn't a lot you can do, but still, and be the partner. Remember the partnership you and your sister had in the past, and just be still. Be the shaman for her. Hold that space. Sorry, I can't give you more news, but I've got to say what the runes are. And actually, Lulu, think of these runes and go on and vision it for yourself. So you have Awaz blocked, facing towards the past. You have Fayu laying down, the sister, towards the past, and Isa. And is this something in your sister that has come from the past, that she's had a long time, and she's hit Isa, the wall now? But you, following a shamanic path, would want to go on this journey to understand it deeper. All right, bless you, sister.
Yep. Sending love there as well. All right. Nina has a question.
Yep.
She would like to expand into more financial abundance while also being of service using soul gifts. Any advice from the runes? 24, 18, and 5.
Okay. So you have Othello pointing towards the nose of it, pointing towards about 2 o'clock. You have Kenaz reversed, looking at the tribe or home or wherever you are, and you have Perthro reversed. There's every time you try and do this, you seem to get bad luck and thrown back into this family issue. For you to claim more abundance, you have to see where this lies in your heritage, in the family. What is the riddle that I have to solve that puts me straight back into this circle? Family, falling, Kenaz, reversed, Perthro, bad luck. It's like there's a riddle I haven't seen, something I haven't solved that makes me tip the cauldron out the wrong way all the time. If I wanted to work with this, I wouldn't use Feu for abundance. I would use Perthro with about and wear it as facing forward to claim my opportunities, to claim my luck, and for a woman to start understanding that you are the sovereign of your own destiny and start manifesting, not allowing this family link of not seeing the truth and distraction distract you. All right, bless you, sister.
Yeah, powerful. All right, looks like we have one more. And it's Jonathan. Well into it. Yeah, he says, I'm well into my journey as a solitary pagan. Your guidance led me to the Celtic paganism. Should I be working more as a healer? 9, 5, and 2.
You have Othello upside down. So with this question, you have to be working with your ancestors. Normally this is deserted from the tribe, but we're asking a question about my pagan path. This is probably the perfect room in the perfect position for asking about your pagan path. Who were your ancestors? Who were the ones in your bloodline? Next to that, we have Ansu's upright. You need to speak to them, be their voice in this time. And finally, you have Yara the right way up. When whoever these people are make themselves known to you and you become in communication with them, the work you should do should be honoring their path and allowing their words to be spoken. Probably just like what I do. I allow my ancestors to speak through me and I'm their voice in my time. All right, bless you, brother. Good luck on your journey.
I think that is it for the questions. Drema did mention this, that she has come across a rune symbol that showed up in nature by tree branches. Yeah. Looks like the letter Y, but with an extra bit at the top in the middle. We all know it. Some of us know what that is, not everybody. That would be.
Oh, do you want to explain that one, Kels?
Yeah, that would be the algaes. That's a message of self-sovereignty and protection. I mean, that's how I always look at it. It's like keeping myself first, taking care of me, acknowledging who I am.
Perfect. Yeah, it's about you being selfish on the path, knowing who you are, the right to claim your deities. Who am I? This is my path. I deserve it myself. You know, and if you'll come across somebody to work with, this is interesting. I was talking about this today about us being healers. If we don't like the energy of somebody when we're about to heal them, we shouldn't work with them.
Right.
And then you go with that. Did we answer Jenna's question?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and it's important about that when you follow the healing path to know what you can do and what you can't. There's a certain ego which we think we can heal everybody. That isn't the way it is. Some people's energies, it's like a dentist trying to be a brain surgeon. Sometimes you can help, sometimes you can. You know, it's the way it is.
And Jenna, I think Jenna was asking about when the deeper runic study is, and I think that she probably found it through our website for the dates. That's what she was inquiring about.
I'm looking forward to that. It'll be interesting because I've always said, no, go off and walk your path yourself. But it will be interesting to see how others have developed along their journey and how runes have changed for them, how they see it. And I'll probably learn as much in the class as the others sitting around. Right. Even my own one, you know, I read the runes has changed. I instantly see things now, especially when I'm doing speed readings like this, when I don't have to think too much and it's just bang, it's just coming out. I'm not getting my ego get in the way. That's what I see. Yeah. And it's a good thing to do. If you just start in the rooms, doing stuff like this is really good because it takes your thinking mind that says you're not good enough or I can't do it out of the way. You just give the answers.
Yeah, just learning how to trust how you read. That's really what the process is. All right. Well, I think that's about it. Until I really am enjoying this platform and sharing with everybody. It seems to flow
It's like
so
a chill out,
easy.
isn't it? It's like really easy. It's like no stress whatsoever. Yeah.
Super simple.
All right. Bless you guys. See you again next time in Talking with Wizards. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.